Hello and welcome to the Brooks Breakthrough Podcast. I am your host, Ashley Brooks. This week's guest is a special, amazing person you've probably seen on social media. It is DJ Baluyot, a retirement strategist from California. DJ is on mission to help families gain financial literacy and grow their legacy and wealth. Today, he's going to share why he made the switch from being a teacher to entering into financial services, exactly how he's helping families create tax-free retirements. Yes, tax-free, and how he's grown his business through social media. So without further ado, DJ, welcome. I'm so happy to have you joining me today.
Woohoo! All right, that was such a great intro. Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Ashley, for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform to talk stories and share some knowledge. And yeah, I'm very honored to be here. And anytime I have a chance to speak, to talk about my experiences, I always take advantage of it because it's definitely a privilege and I don't take it lightly. So thank you again. I appreciate that.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I love how much energy you have. So you have a lot of energy on your posts online, but even in person, you have it's just constant. I feel like it's a constant thing. You don't really turn on and off.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just how I'm designed. When I'm like in front of a camera, in front of a crowd, I want to
Yeah.
make sure that I give them what I have,
Yeah.
and some people respond to it and some people don't, but I guess I just do me. So, yeah, excited again to be on this podcast with you, and I'm excited to get the party started.
Well, great. Well, I think the first thing we're going to dive into is really share your background. Where are you from originally? Where did you grow up? And kind of share who you were before you got into financial services.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm originally from Vallejo, California. So that's where I grew up. And I went to San Jose State to pursue a couple degrees. Then I went to SoCal to get another degree. I feel like I have more degrees than a thermometer, right? But I didn't really know too much about finances. But before I stepped into the financial industry, I was actually a high school teacher for 7 years, kind of like what you mentioned.
Mhm.
I love teaching. I love educating. And I love my students. And I did it for 7 years. And it was very challenging for me to step away because I don't know, working with kids, they just give me a certain energy. And I really enjoy that because sometimes working with adults, they give me a different type of energy.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I have goals. Like everyone listening, everyone here, they have goals and dreams, specifically financial goals and dreams. And being in California, living off of that teacher salary, it wasn't cutting it. So I thought to myself, uh, maybe I should try to make more money on top of my teaching gig. But instead of trying to make more money, actually, I decided to learn about money.
Mhm.
It's almost like a paradigm shift. But again, I have 2 degrees, a minor, and a master's degree, right? More degrees than a thermometer, but I didn't know anything about finances. So that's what intrigued me to step into this business, into this industry. What are the wealthy people doing with their
Mhm.
finances, right? What are the banks doing with their finances? And luckily, I was put in a position where I saw a couple people from my church, and I know that they were in the industry, and I just had a basic conversation with them. Hey, can you teach me some concepts about finances? And they kind of presented me the opportunity, like, yeah, let's go sit at Starbucks and I can show you some concepts. And I'm like, why isn't this taught in school?
Mhm.
So they kind of helped me with my finances, how I can diversify and grow my wealth while I'm still sleeping, right? We've always heard that before. Try to make your money grow while you sleep. Well, okay, I understand that concept, but how do you do it? Where do we put our finances? Where do we put our money? And then what's pretty interesting, Ashley, is that they offered me an opportunity to say, DJ, it seems like you are very interested in the subject matter. If you want, we can teach you, train you, educate you, and on top of that, you can actually get paid. I said, what? Say less. I'm already in the teaching realm. Now let me just learn another subject. However, before I gave them my full yes, I actually talked to my pastor about it. I said, hey, P, I have this opportunity. I really want to learn about it. And he said, DJ, why do you want to step into this industry? I said, well, I want to fund the kingdom. And what
Mhm.
do you mean? Like, well, I could only give what I have, right? You have $100, you can only give $100. But I feel like we have so much more inside of us, and I just didn't know where to go to get it and cultivate it. So he said, DJ, there's 3 things. If you step into this industry, you're gonna learn about money. And I was like, I definitely want to learn about money. He said, number two, you're going to make some extra money. I said, I definitely want to make some extra money. And he said, number three, you'll have a whole new market to minister and
Mm,
love on people in a positive way. I said, well, that's, a win-win-win situation. So
yeah.
that's kind of like how I started, and then I started to learn and grow. And my pastor almost like gave me his blessing in a sense, said, yeah, go for it, learn about it, because I can't really teach you that stuff. You have to go outside of the church to learn these basic concepts. So that's kind of like my story
Mm,
of how I started in the industry.
I love that. Man, there's so much to unpack there. Growing up, what did you learn about money?
Nothing. I'm just kidding. The only thing, I guess, my parents were divorced, right? So I would see one parent just be very frugal, responsible, but not necessarily teach me too much about it. I just
Mhm.
watched them. My other set of parents, it seemed like they were almost struggling, right? And I didn't really know at that time, but as I grew older, you realize, oh, my parents aren't perfect. They have flaws, and since no one taught them what to do with their finances, they're going to teach me what they know. It's kind of like monkey see,
Mhm.
monkey do. So it's kind of like passing down that
Mhm.
generational curse financially. So I was like, you know what? It ends with me. And
Yeah.
it starts with one person in the family say, you know what? No more. I'm going to learn what I need to learn. I'm going to
Yeah.
execute, facilitate so I can change my last name forever.
I love
So
that. Where are your parents from?
they're originally from the Philippines.
Okay.
So they used to live in bamboo trees and everything. And then
Yeah.
so they had a whole different set of struggles.
Yep.
And then they had an opportunity to join the military and migrate here to the United States. So that was their hustle. They
Yeah.
took, they left everything they knew, their friends, their family, so that they had a vision like, okay, there has to be better than this, living and waking
Mm.
up in bamboo trees. Let me join the military, get my go to the United States and try to provide that American dream. So,
So were they really big on education, education, go to school, make good grades? Were those your parents?
um, yeah, I mean, they didn't necessarily uh like push that down my throat.
Mhm.
I think it was for me as an individual. I think I was a pretty stand-up kid.
Yeah.
I didn't get into too much trouble, but I was like, all right, let me try to get some good grades, and
Yeah.
so I was pretty responsible in that area. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and the reason I asked that, so my parents are both from Mexico. They came here, worked really hard, all about the American dream. My parents are divorced as well. But my mom growing up was very much like you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get a job. Like, and
Hmm.
that's it, right? And so they didn't really learn a lot about money. So not a lot was taught to us. And both of, my parents we just worked for the dollar, right?
Yeah.
And investing was never a thing that we learned about. And it wasn't until probably my mid 20s, my early to mid 20s, I got into the hotel industry and I grew really quickly. So I was the youngest
Hmm.
director of sales in two different markets. And I remember like I'd come home to my mom and I would tell her these stories of things that I'd heard the owner say or things that I learned about them. And I remember her saying, all I knew was go to school, go to
Yeah.
college, get a job. I wish I would have taught y'all about owning things
Hmm.
because but
Yeah.
she didn't, right? She didn't know the power of like what it meant to own things and have people
Yeah.
pay you for it and none of that stuff, right? And so like you said, it starts with you. So like I
Hmm.
can't, like I have no anger, no resentment towards my parents for never teaching me that because they didn't know. They did the
Yeah.
best with what they knew. But
Yeah.
now that I'm learning these things, like it's up to me to change it from, I only have one kid right now. My husband and I have a daughter, but we want to grow our family. So like as we grow that, it's up to us to change it. She's going to
There it
learn
is.
either good or bad financial habits from us.
Hmm.
She's going to learn one of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. And yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for my parents. They did the best they could with what they had with the time that's allowed. And as I continue to excel and grow in my knowledge, I shared with them as well. They said, DJ, I wish I knew this 20, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
but this information wasn't necessarily accessible.
Yeah.
So every day I hear, DJ, where were you 10, 20, 30 years ago? I was like, oh, well, I was still in college, or I was actually in my diapers. So we can't change the past, but we can change our future with what we learn and execute today and implement today. So
Absolutely. And it's great to know that you're obviously you're not just changing the trajectory of your family, but you're helping other families change the trajectory of where their families are going. So share some of that. And I know, I mean, we're not the only people in this country whose parents didn't know about the proper financial tools, resources, education, all that kind of stuff, right? So now you're educating other families on things that like a lot of us didn't grow up knowing. So where do you start with that? Where do you start with a family that has no strong foundational financial education?
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Uh, for me, it all starts with education. That's my background, right?
Mhm.
So I like to say I educate people so they can make or I empower people so that they can make educated decision on their financial accounts. So I'm not a salesperson. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a business person, but I'm more of an educator. So when I meet with my clients, it's more of an educational session. So I tell them like, if this is something that you want within your portfolio, let's go ahead and move forward. But if not, it's totally fine. Now you understand what to do and how these accounts can benefit you and your family. So no pressure on you and no pressure on me. All right. Like, oh, okay, I like that. So I think that's what kind of separates me from other financial agents. It's more so on the educational side, just kind of educating them. And everyone I sit with has different financial goals, short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. So my job is to find out how I can help them attain their short, mid, long-term goals, right? And everyone's in a different, you know, position or in their financial journey, right? Some might be starting, or someone's like, hey, I'm making $200,000 a month. I don't know what to do. You know, I want to put this money and make it grow. Where do I put this money, right? Because there's three things as far as finances, and I think many people have the first two down. One is learn how to make money, right? I feel like your parents know how to do that. My parents, a lot of immigrant parents, we know how to make money. They know how to make money, right? Working hard. So it's not hard to make money. Two is save money,
Mhm.
right? Not difficult. The third one is to grow money. So
Yeah.
make money, save money, grow money. The first requires action, right? Just do it, just go hustle. The second one requires habit. That sometimes people have a hard time with that habit, because if you make money, people tend to spend the money. The third one, grow money, that requires knowledge.
Mhm.
That's what a lot of people don't have. We can make money, we can save money, but growing that money, we need some guidance, some mentors, some teachers to walk us through. And that's where I come in. I can help in all three of those, you know, making, saving, and growing. So everyone I sit with, I kind of find out where I can assist them in their area as far as their journey and their finances.
So my next question is, when you sit down with these people, what would you say is the biggest aha moment? I mean, you just said that a lot of them don't understand what it means to grow wealth. Is that where you are seeing a lot of the aha moments? And if so, can you get specific about it?
Yeah, yeah. So yesterday I sat down with a client in Hawaii, Aloha, and he's doing fairly well for himself, right? And he's in real estate. He has a good diversified portfolio in Hawaii, and he's just trying to find other ways to grow his money. And I sat down with him and I showed him illustrations, and I said, "Hey, if you put this money in these accounts, projectedly this is what it can look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Obviously I can't promise you that it's going to be here. However, historically speaking, this is what it can look like, because past performance doesn't dictate future performances either, right? So
Mm.
however, just understand the concept as well, because if you keep all your money in the bank, your money is just collecting dust. It's safely depreciating because it doesn't keep up with inflation whatsoever, right? I'm not saying take all your money out and reallocate somewhere else. No, no, no. I'm saying use wisdom. You don't want to keep all your money in there. You want to diversify and put in other accounts, other investments that will grow and beat inflation, right?
Absolutely.
Um, but I know that that was kind of more of someone that's more well off, but someone who is just starting, I do something called a personal financial review. I like to say that's my secret sauce. I have a Google Doc. I get a picture of what they're making, what they're spending, how much they have liquid, how much they're saving, what's their short-term, long-term goals, and then I put it all on paper. I say, if 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 you were to give yourself a grade, just by looking at your finances now, what would you grade yourself? They said, oh man, I would give myself a C, or I'll give myself a B, or sometimes I hear I'll give myself an F. I said, okay, why would you give yourself an F? Well, DJ, because I'm spending more than I'm making.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. So what are some things that you feel you can do to get that F to a D, D to a C? So I'm just almost being a financial therapist, like, hey, this is what you're working with right now. You tell me what you need to work on.
And that just in itself, having someone, just if we're talking basics, just basics, having
Basics.
someone who can sit down with you. And a lot of people don't like talking about finances because it makes them uncomfortable because a lot of people would be in the DF category.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So they don't want to open themselves up in that way. But if you think about it, I mean, we go to doctors to check our bodies, right? Like we have specialists. And the wealthy, they employ teams of people to watch just their money. That's their entire job. We coming from real estate over the last 2 years, a lot of buyers have been institutional buyers for the last 2 years because money was so cheap.
Yeah.
And so we had a conversation recently with a family friend who sent us an article about just how much was purchased by institutions and how unfair it was. And I was like, well, you got to think about it. Like there are people that pay these institutions to take care of their money. And a lot of it was hedge funds buying up property because they have to capitalize on their clients' finances.
Yeah.
So they were buying houses to protect other people's money. And so you have people like wealthy groups of people employing people like this, buying things to protect wealth. And I mean, the least we can do is just meet with someone once a year to look at our finances, just to make sure
so good.
we're not in the red. That if my encouragement to anyone, like, listen, we're not expecting you to like have crazy buku's amount in tons of buckets, but at the bare minimum, meet with someone just to give you some sort of guidance.
Yeah. And I like what you talked about there, Ashley, because you said you go to a doctor to get your physical health right? You don't go to a dentist to check out your health. You go to a dentist for your teeth. You go to an eye doctor for your eye. You go to a mechanic for your car, right? However, when it comes to finances, why do you go to your Uncle Bob that's sleeping on the couch and asking him for advice? They're not properly licensed. They don't have the proper background knowledge. So why do you go to that person? Go to a financial professional that's licensed, that's credible, that has some experience, right? And you have to go to the right person, for the right advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so one of your specialties is life insurance. So you had this is an avenue and a vehicle that a number of people use. And just to kind of give insight on that, there's a story in 2014. There was a Silicon Valley tech billionaire. We don't know who it is. A name was never given. Who bought the biggest life insurance policies? It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. $201 million.
Awesome.
So if you're a billionaire, right? Like, why are you getting a life insurance policy for $200 million when you could easily put money away for your family that you're leaving behind or whatever? So when we talk about this isn't something like, I know a lot of people feel uncomfortable when you talk about life insurance because like, oh, someone's just trying to sell it to you. No, there are wealthy people that buy this, right? This person just made a world record for buying the biggest policy, but they probably didn't even, in our minds, we would think, okay, they probably don't even need it. But so can we transition to that and talk about what the benefits are and why someone would even do something like that?
Yeah, so life insurance can be one of the most misconstrued financial vehicles ever. And I want to say, I'm going to throw some people under the bus, but as far as like financial agents, life insurance agents, I want to say over 60% of them have no idea what they're talking about. All right. However, as far as someone that is a billionaire putting such a large lump sum of money into these accounts, life insurance is supposed to be utilized for your life, not just when you pass away. But there's so many things that you can utilize as far as passing down generational wealth. But another big one is taxes. You talked about earlier, tax-free retirement, tax-free growth. The number one cost of Americans today is taxes. I mean, think about it. 20, 30, 40% of federal state income. So you're saying if I work 12 months, the first 3 to 4 months, we're working for the government. After that, okay, now I can keep my fair share. So when wealthy people utilize life insurance, they're not utilizing so that they can pass down generational wealth, or maybe they can, but another reason is why, so that they can grow tax-free, income, money, right? There's no other financial vehicle that grows your money tax-free and you can take out your money tax-free, right? And the reason why you can do that is because they're leveraging something called life insurance. There's 3 internal revenue codes: 72E, 7702, and 101A. Those 3 internal revenue codes, listen, learn the rules and play the game, right? You can grow your money tax-free, you can take out your money tax-free, and you can pass down your money to your beneficiaries tax-free, right? Are we familiar with the Rockefellers by any chance?
Yep.
Yeah. A couple of them are actually my neighbors, so it's pretty cool. No, I'm just kidding. But the Rockefellers, take a look at this. They're considered to be one of the most wealthiest families in America ever since the 1900s because of their inventions and their investments. How were they able to pass down generational wealth? Well, one of the vehicles that they leverage was permanent life insurance. Okay. So they put money into this account, it grows, it compounds. When it's time for them to pass away, I mean, let's be honest. If our family members have $1, $2, $3 million, we give it to them, it's probably going to be gone within the first or second generation, right? But what did the Rockefellers do? Well, they put it into a trust. What did the trust determine? The trust dictated how much money will go to their family on a monthly basis, annual basis, or at a specific time and or event. Wedding, college, business, real estate. But take a look at this, Ashley. A portion of that money needed to go back into permanent life insurance. So what did that do? It rinsed and repeated the process, passing down generational wealth. Actually, they don't teach this stuff in school.
No. And so when you when you mentioned the Rockefellers, I turned because I have that book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? And it's a small book. I highly recommend it. Yes. What Would the Rockefellers Do? It breaks it down why they it puts them up against the Vanderbilts. The Vanderbilts did not, one of the wealthiest men ever. And what was it? By generation 3, the money was all gone. I think the wealthiest Vanderbilt right now is Anderson Cooper, and I think his mom. Outside of that, the family has lost their wealth. And it breaks it down why the Rockefellers were able to do it. So highly recommend that one. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. And the success leaves clues, right? So who are successful individuals? Well, study them. Right? They're not going to actually teach you this stuff in school. And the reason why I say that is because I taught there for 7 years. I have 2 degrees, a minor and a master's degree. They didn't teach me nothing about finances. Right? So you have to take it upon yourself to learn and to grow, and also try to find the right people to learn and grow from.
Yeah.
Right. So
another book. So I got that one last year, but this year, so I bought this, a friend of mine who also got me into, or started teaching me about life insurance, introduced me to this book, The Power of Zero.
Yeah, Power of Zero.
So I've worked, literally, because I knew you were coming on this week, I started reading it over the weekend, almost done with it. But that's another one I recommend because it breaks down the 401k, the Roth IRA, what the benefits of life insurance compared to those. And one of the interesting stories that I thought was in there was about how the start of the 401, or no, not 401k, Social Security. It was started in 1935 when the official retirement age was 65, even though the government knew that the average life expectancy was 62. So the government was expecting you to not even be able to take from your Social Security. And if you did make it past 65, they figured you'd only be able to use it for a few years. So it wasn't actually a retirement account, even though that's what we think it is. It was just insurance in case you live longer than you were supposed to. But that's not the way it was ever conveyed to us. But it's funny because if you study things, you'll realize the secrets that were kind of kept in a back pocket when it was sold to you.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? They say if you want to keep a secret, put it in a book.
Yep.
Right. And the reason why
I cannot recommend reading enough.
Yeah, people don't like reading nowadays. They want to watch a 30, 45-second TikTok video instead. And that's why I decided to start making these simple, basic financial videos, concepts. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to put it out there. Whoever wants it, cool. Whoever doesn't want it, then they can just keep scrolling.
And how soon did you start doing that after you got licensed?
I got licensed in late 2018, beginning 2019. To be honest, for my first year and a half, 2 years, I didn't even use social media at all. right? It was me. So let me read these books, let me learn from these mentors and these teachers. And then once COVID began, that's when I'm like, okay, well, I can't really go to networking events anymore. And then I'm like, okay, I'm at the house. I got a camera. I have a mic. Let me start recording.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely started picking momentum.
And
You
how
know?
did that change? Like, when did you really start to see the change in the amount of calls that you were getting?
Oh yeah. I want to say probably anywhere between 3, 4, 5 months after I started.
Really?
You know, there's some months where I'm like booked for like 2 months straight,
Oh,
right?
wow.
There's always like highs and lows,
Yeah.
right? Like sometimes my calendar is like so booked, and there's some weeks I'm like, okay, thank God it's not too busy this week, you know. But for the most part, it's very lucrative. But social media is a great platform to get clients and people that are interested, but it's not the way. It's a way.
Mm,
It's a way. It's not the way. There's so many different ways. Like if I didn't have social media, I truly believe like I'll still be able to be successful, right?
yeah.
With my skill sets, my capabilities, and my convictions, right?
Yeah.
But just because it's available and it's free, I'm like, all right, well, let me do the best I can here and
Yeah.
see where that can take me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think you had mentioned in a previous conversation that we had, so you originally had what, 3 licenses, and then due to social media, you ended up getting licensed in more states, correct?
oh,
Just to meet the demand.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was 3, 4 licensed when I first started in different states, but now, yeah, I'm licensed in like about 30 plus states right now.
Oh, are you working on any others currently?
Once clientele like starts booking appointments with me, yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Like I wouldn't be surprised in the next year or two I'll have my license in all 50 states.
Really?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
What's been the biggest surprise as far as location or how someone found you? Have there been any like crazy stories?
um I had I had a client, no, I wouldn't even say client, but I had someone reach out to me from like England. I'm like,
Mm,
what the heck, bro? Like I can't even help you. You're not even in the United States. So
yeah.
I specifically say, like, if you're not in the United States, I can't help you. I can give you some basic financial concepts, which I'm more than willing to do so. But he was like, so who do I talk to? Where do I go? And so I kind of walked with him as far as, okay, this is who you should talk to. Make sure they know X, Y, and Z. If you have any questions, let me know. But yeah, the majority of people that contact me, it can be whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. And
Yeah.
typically they book an appointment with me because I piqued their interest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just asked them like, okay, how can I help you today? What do you want to learn more about? Well, I saw that you are teaching people how to be their own bank. I would like to learn more about that. Perfect. Or I want a tax-free retirement, and I want something to supplement my retirement tax-free. What do I do? Okay, here. Or juvenile policies,
Yeah.
so things like that.
Well, and I want to go back on something you had mentioned at the beginning. You were talking about how you learned about this from some of your friends within church, and your pastor gave his blessing. I grew up in the church,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't a lot that I learned about money in the church. It wasn't until I got out and learned about business and all of that kind of stuff from being in the business world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So share a little bit of kind of what that experience has been to you and how you feel like you've been able to add, like you said, to the kingdom and how you've been able to be used in this area, especially within the church family, on even just a local and kind of a larger scale. What have been some experiences for you?
Yeah, yeah. So I like to say that going to church has helped me become who I am today as a man. Spiritually, it definitely laid a firm foundation, right? So I needed that firm foundation so that I can be prepared for my current season, right? And I like to say mission before the commission,
Mm,
right? So when I sit down with people, I'm like, okay, how would I handle this in a way that's going to honor and glorify God, right? Mission before the commission, because it's so easy to distort certain numbers in the financial industry to get a higher commission, right?
yeah.
So, friendly tip, everyone out there, if you guys are concerned, why is my life insurance so high? Well, take a look at this. The higher the life insurance, the higher the commission your agent will receive.
Mm,
It's kind of like when you sell real estate. The higher the cost of a house, more commission the real estate agent is going to receive. No different in the financial industry. So if you're trying to like, do I have the right life insurance? Am I paying too much? How high is your life insurance? If it's too high, you might want to ask, why is it too high? Unless you really wanted that million, $2, $3, $5 million policy, right? But as far as faith, man, it's helped me, and it's put me in a position where like, okay, should I really sign up this client for this type of account, or maybe let's have another Zoom meeting so that I can really break it down so that they have an understanding. But if it wasn't for my convictions and my faith, like I don't know where I would be, as far as where I'm at in business. And people always ask me, DJ, how do you get your clients? How do you get your new business partners? I said, to be honest, I pray. I say, God, send me the right people. If I need to help a specific family, I pray that they find my video, or I pray that I bump into them. I pray for divine appointments. So I'm not anxious about anything, but in everything I pray in thanksgiving and supplication to God. So it's
I
awesome. I love
love
it.
that because, like you said, yes, there are a lot of people out there that just want the commission. So it's hard, and sometimes it's hard to filter out, like, hey, does this person actually have my best interest at heart? It's really, really hard to decipher. When my husband and I were engaged, so I come from growing up in the church. He did not. He found God later in life, and I remember telling him one time, I don't feel like you can have a ton of wealth and still like truly love God. Like if you just look at it, like if you look at the way the world is, and he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah. He was like, well, what does wealth look like in scripture? And I was like, I don't know. And this is again, I in my own arrogance thought, okay, well, I probably know more than him because I grew up in the church. But he made the comment, if you look at wealth in the Bible, it was land, big family, animals. It wasn't the shiny stuff. It was like it costs money to have land, right? And so I say that to say like being on mission and not being drawn to the goal, like the shiny objects, right? Like for you, you're so on mission that it's like someone can give you a dollar amount, but it's like you really work to not be swayed by that dollar amount because like that, like your mission is more important than whatever like the world can give you because you know that God will give you whatever he wants to give you. And he doesn't really have a short supply of anything.
Oh yeah. And I had almost an epiphany, a revelation, if you may. I'm like, okay, why do I serve an unlimited God, but why do I feel limited?
Oh, that's
No,
good.
I was a high school teacher making 50,000. I was like, I serve an unlimited God, and he's able to open any door at any time, any season. But why do I feel like, well, it's because of the vehicle, because of the place that I'm in, right? Like I got really depressed because I was like, I think I was working 3-4 years as a high school teacher. I was like, I got some money saved up. Let me see if I can, purchase property. And I talked to a real estate agent at that time. He was like, DJ, you're gonna have to make 3 times this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get my master's, I got to get my doctorate degree, and I got to get a second teaching job. Like that's impossible almost,
Have you been
So
able to buy your house since then?
yeah.
Good for you.
So a year and a half being in the industry. So I did this thing part-time, just to learn and educate other family members. So I kept my teaching gig for about a year and a half, 2 years after. But a year and a half doing this, I surprised my mom by buying her a house in Vallejo, right? So I asked my mom, I was like, hey mom, where do you want to live? She said, I want to stay in Vallejo. I was like, are you sure? Like, yeah, we grew up here. I said, okay. So I talked to my sisters. I'm like, hey, I got some money, and let's surprise mom with the house. So we blindfolded her. It was pretty crazy. It's actually on YouTube and my Instagram. And then my mom was like, what are you doing? I was like, mom, I want you to meet somebody, like a girl or something. It was like, oh, okay. And then we walked her out, took out the blindfolds, and everybody was like, surprise.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a very emotional day.
Oh,
And had my family members there, some of my siblings, and my mom was yeah. So she has a place where she doesn't have to worry about getting kicked out. She has a couple dogs, a cat. She has like I'm like,
yeah.
Mom, what are you doing with my house or your house? So yeah.
That is like a dream for so many people
Mm-hmm.
to be able to either like retire their parents or to get their parents a home or that's so I love you got to do that. And I think we're around the same age. So the fact that you got to do that at such a young age, that is awesome, DJ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I remember one of my business partners when I first started, he said, DJ, once you start making money, what's the first thing you're gonna do? I said, I'm gonna buy my mom a house.
Hmm.
So I remember that conversation a year and a half later. What I spoke came into existence.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome. What out of curiosity, what did you teach when you were a teacher?
I taught in the conservatory, so anything in the arts, and
Hmm.
I was like almost like a full-time substitute. So
Okay.
yeah, so whatever they needed me,
Yeah.
whether it's math, English, history, I just looked at the lesson plans to make sure I, understand the material. So every time you sub a class, you get like what, $40. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I can sub one, two, three extra classes a day, not knowing they're gonna tax me on that. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But that was like my quote unquote side hustle. I was like, okay, I can work more hours. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that is funny. Well, so this next section that I'm going to get into is what I like to call the four W's. So I am a firm believer in that you are what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, and who you hang out with. So for the
Mm-hmm.
first one, what is it that you're watching? Do you watch a lot of, like social media content? Do you watch movies? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't necessarily watch too much. I mean, like when I eat like food, I just like put something on like Netflix or something. But as far as like taking time out of my day to watch, I remember my parents would do that. And after work, they would just sit down and lounge. I'm like, I don't do that. Like I need information that's going to feed me.
Mm,
Right. So whether it's real estate information or financial information or faith information, right? Like you said, you are what you eat, right? So I'm like, okay, what's going to help me grow? So yeah, I do more so podcasts,
okay.
right? I don't necessarily listen to too much music anymore because I'm like, this is time that I can be learning more about real estate or
Right.
finances or, faith or personal development. So I don't watch too much like television, to be honest.
What kind of podcasts are you listening to?
Uh, right now, actually, my girlfriend, she sent me a relational podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because growing up, I didn't learn about finances, and growing up, I didn't learn about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to succeed in the field, well, you have to educate yourself. So, I started listening to relational podcasts.
Mm.
What are women's needs? What are men's needs? How can you guys meet in the middle? How do you properly communicate? And it's just so amazing to learn this information. I'm like, oh, I can actually learn it, utilize it, implement it, and have a dialogue with my partner and see how we can grow in our relationship. Right. So
I
yeah.
no, I love that because I agree. We aren't taught about relationships. Like it's like even in the content that we watched when we were younger, right? Like the movies, the TV shows. It's like you want a partner, you want that significant other. So the only storyline you get is like the dating, the problem before like you officially like say, hey, this is it, I'm all in, and that's it.
Hmm.
That's the example of love and relationships that you get.
Yeah.
Like not the hard stuff, not like the times where you don't enjoy each other, all of that, and it's crazy, and it's good that you're listening to things to help you with that
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
marriage
yeah.
is hard.
Is it? I heard,
Yeah.
but I know it's kind of like um with anything, the more you put in, the more you'll get out, right? And when it comes to finances, same thing. The more money you put into a compounding account, the more it's going to grow. You put the least amount, you're going to get the least in return. You put the most.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, okay, if I put more into this relationship, I'm going to get more out of it. And I really want this relationship to succeed. So, hey, what do I
Mm.
need to do? I need to learn, I need to grow, I need to communicate. So let's do this.
And
Woohoo.
I know I love it. And to add to that, if you want to be wealthy, you watch what wealthy people are doing, right? So if you want a happy
Hmm.
marriage, learn from other happy marriages. We went to an event. We went to this weekend getaway a few years ago.
Hmm.
And it was that was like a really rough year for us. There's a lot happening within my family. And we went, I remember like we got there and I was angry. Like I was angry to be there. And I was
Oh
like, I
my gosh.
so don't want to be right. So we go to bed that night and I'm like talking, like I'm just angry, like I'm just complaining, and he falls asleep. And I'm like, you just fall asleep on me? And so I'm angry, right? So I wake up angry and we go to they had this breakout where it was all these young couples and
Mm-hmm.
this one older couple that was talking to us. And they're giving, their life experiences. They've been married for like 30 years or something. And this other couple, so the young couple, the husband is like, I love my wife. I love her so much. But I don't know why she always wants to have these deep conversations right before we're going to go to bed. And it's like, I don't want to fall asleep on her. And I'm like, it helps to hear other people. Like, we think that our issues, like, we're the only ones dealing with it. So, one, getting to hear other people who are dealing with it. And two, getting to hear from like wise older couples
So
give
good.
their wisdom. I will tell you, there's so much fun. We came out of that weekend so grateful that we went, even though we went into it so miserable because there was a
Wow.
lot that we learned from our
Mm,
peers and from our elders.
wow.
So just
That's so beautiful.
food for thought for that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I receive that.
yeah. So, okay, so we did what you watch, what you listen to. What are you reading right now?
Books. Uh, the Bible, which is I do I read it for sure. But one of the books that I'm reading is actually this.
Mm,
Um, what is it called? Relationship Goals
mhm.
by Michael Todd. Really good book, more so for
Yeah.
relational.
Yeah.
So me and my lady were reading that, and we read a chapter a week, and we kind of, whether it's on a Saturday or Sunday, hey, let's talk about it. What stood out to you? So nothing too
Mhm.
crazy, but we want to feed our relationship. But a couple books that I'm reading right now with my team: Money, Wealth, and Life Insurance.
Mm,
So this is a simple read, a simple book. It's like 60, 70 pages. The people that I'm training, I'm like, hey, let's read 2 chapters a week, right?
mhm.
And basically, this book talks about how wealthy individuals utilize life insurance as a vehicle to grow their money, right?
Mhm.
Like Walt Disney or J.C. Penney, McDonald's, all these, or even banks. It has bank statements and things like that. It's so crazy,
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm reading, and so yeah, I just want to make sure that I am well versed in my craft. So I just
Mm,
continue to read literature, right? The Power Zero, that's a great book,
yeah.
and yeah, so
Have there been any books this year that have like really caught your attention, like given you any aha moments?
The Laser Fund,
Laser
the
fun.
late, yeah, the Laser Fund by Doug Andrews.
Okay.
So this is more complex. However, it has a lot of aha moments. He has two sections, more of like left brain or right brain, like
Mhm.
stories, and the other one is kind of like numbers and
Mm,
terminology, things like that. So this one is a good one. I just finished that, but I'm also reading this book, Stress-Free Retirement.
mm,
Stress-free retirement. This is more so for like fixed index annuities and how you can grow your money tax-free and the benefits of doing that. Like this is really, it's very simple too, by Patrick Kelly. So shout out to Patrick Kelly. But as you can see, like I have a whole like library of
yeah.
books. So if any of my clients ask me questions or anybody tries to get at me sideways, like I'm well versed. I can defend my faith in a sense. So
Yeah. Well, so when it comes to who do you hang out with, if you were to take those closest to you and figure out what those common characteristics are between the closest people you choose to hang out with, what would those characteristics
mm,
be?
the people that I choose to hang out with, characteristics. I think there's a variety, but as far as the people that I really choose to hang out with, we're forward thinkers, right? We're
Mm,
not stagnant. We're not like, hey, let's all just hang out every Sunday, and talk shop. It's like, hey, how can we get better? Where can we diversify? Where can we grow? Right. So there's people that I hang out with, whether it's on Zoom or on meetings, like, okay, like brainstorm. Like, how can we get better? How can we do better today than we were yesterday? And so on and so forth. But as far as people, I say like you should hang out with three different types of people, right? Almost divide it in three different sections. A third of your time, hang out with people that are doing better than you. All right, so you can learn from them in any aspect. Another third, hang out with people kind of like on your same level, right? All right, let's go up there. Let's go. Let's do what they did. And the last third is people that are like beginning in their stages,
mm,
whether it's life, finances, real estate, so that you can pull them up as well, right? So a third
mm,
of your time should be with people that are doing better than you, people that are on the same level as you, and people that are, I want to say below you, but that are just beginning, less experienced than you.
yeah.
So,
I love that. Because one, it's almost like, okay, I'm learning, I'm taking, we're doing together, I'm serving. So there's like those three
wow.
models.
Hmm.
Because usually I've been really, and I've struggled with finding that balance. I love the way you just worded that because I'm okay. If I'm not growing or learning from you, like it doesn't benefit me. And I
Hmm.
struggle with that because I know that that's the wrong mentality,
Hmm.
but so you kind of help bring that 360.
Yeah, because
So
I
I
mean,
agree.
think about it. There's someone that taught you, invested in
Absolutely.
you, so that you can get where you're at right now. So it's like paying it forward. And
Absolutely.
obviously, you can pick and choose who you want to pay it forward to. Like when I train people, I say, hey, I equip the committed. Right? If you're not committed, then I may not be with you very long because
Mm.
I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make you drink it, right? I equip the committed. If you're committed, I'm gonna teach you, and you get to decide your commitment level. If you want to run, I'll run with you. If you want to jog, if you want to walk, if you want to crawl, I'll be there with you. But just like what Martin Luther King said, it doesn't matter if you run, walk, jump, crawl. Just make sure you keep moving forward.
I love that. If
Mhm.
you could give advice to anyone that is looking to get into your industry, what advice would you give them? Or maybe someone to add to that. Anyone who's looking to get into it, or maybe someone who's found themselves in a lull, who's debating whether they should stay in or get out. What type of advice would you give them?
Um, what do you mean by a low, like get in or get out?
So I know that sometimes when people get into certain industries, they get sold in the beginning, right? But then they
Uh-huh.
realize, man, this is really hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
like
for
what,
sure.
because they're on the verge of like stepping away. So what advice, and maybe that's two different groups, right? Maybe it's two
Mm-hmm.
different pieces of feedback and encouragement.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as far as someone that wants to step into this industry, with something that I would share with them is find a mentor and a coach that knows what they're talking about.
Mm,
Find someone that you admire, someone that you wouldn't mind almost doing life with, right? And
mm,
learning from. If you are in the industry and you're like, man, I don't know if this is for me, and it can be for a number of reasons. Like, again, I meet people all the time on social media. It's like, hey, my teacher, my mentor, my coach, they're not teaching me I learn more on your videos than what I do with, I'm like, that's so crazy because I'm just teaching some basic information.
yeah.
So sometimes you may need to step away from your coach, your mentor, to go with somebody else,
Yeah.
right? For those individuals who have a good coach, a good mentor, and it's like, oh man, understand that this is a business. It's not an overnight success. You got to put in work into this as well. You have to study, you have to grind, you have to learn and grow, excel, right? Sometimes it takes a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, right? But if this is something that you really want to do, just keep at it, right? I I say you are one business partner, you are one client away from an explosion, from
Mm,
changing your life,
I
right?
love that.
So
I love that.
basically, keep I just keep going, right?
Yeah. Well, DJ, I so appreciate your time today and all of your energy, encouragement, words of wisdom that you shared. Is there anything else that you want to leave them with?
Anything else? No, that's a great question. Anything else? You have to be intentional.
Mm,
You have to be intentional, and with this subject of finances, be intentional. You're not going to automatically become financially well off. You're going to have to be intentional about what you do, how much or what comes in, how much you spend, and prepare for the future, right? You have to be intentional. And that might take some work, and that's okay. Find someone that's going to help you work
mm.
with your finances. So I think that's
Got it.
my
Got
last
it.
words right there.
Got it. Well, so official last words, where can people find you? So I know all the social media sites, but what do they type in?
DJ underscore be the bank,
DJ
right?
underscore be the bank.
DJ underscore be the bank, right? I'm a retirement strategist. I help people so that they can be their own bank. If that interests you, feel free to tap in. My Calendly is on my link. Pick a day and time. I'm more than willing to connect with you and educate you and empower you in your financial journey.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, DJ. I hope you have a great week.
All right. God bless, guys.